There comes a time in every fighter's life when he's burdened with the challenge of restoring the honor of the man he looks up to. For Mike Tyson, that day came on the night of January 22nd, 1988. It was 1980 when Larry Holmes beat an aging Muhammad Ali. Mike Tyson, 14 at the time, had been at that venue watching in horror as his idol was pulverized by his opponent. And it was on that very day that he vowed to seek revenge and restore the honor of his hero. 8 years later, he did just that. The journey to that victory, however, was not without its drama. After years of gracing many boxing rings and enduring some of the most intense punches in his career, it was clear that Muhammad Ali was finally nearing the end of his career and was completely falling off. It had now become a struggle to coordinate his muscles, showing that Parkinson's had finally eaten deep. At this point, Ali's kidneys had started failing. It was so bad that his doctor left the corner and chose to have nothing to do with him anymore. Larry Holmes, on the other hand, had spent a considerable amount of years learning side by side with Muhammad Ali as a sparring partner. But at some point, Holmes realized that he needed to step into the spotlight himself. And so finally, in 1980, after spending so many years in Ali's shadow, Holmes got a shot at the title. While Ali's stubbornness had kept him in the game at such an old age, there was only so much his body could really take. For Ali, the final act had to be the Thrilla in Manila against Joe Frazier in 1975. Now, the tables had turned because while the student had become a master in the sport, the master had become nothing more than a frail old man with a legacy. Regardless, in 1980, Ali agreed to the fight against his student, Larry Holmes. And in this fight, Ali got the worst beating of his entire career, and this lasted for a lot longer than the world was willing to watch. Ali learned two things by the end of this fight. First, Holmes was indeed a great student, and he couldn't be young forever. As you would expect, this was a sad day for the world, especially fans of the legendary Muhammad Ali. Even Holmes couldn't take it anymore and asked that the referee end the match immediately. During the post-fight interview, Holmes couldn't hold back tears as he had so much respect for his mentor and teacher.
So I really respect Ali a whole lot.
It hurt you to punish him that way, didn't it?
I feel that he fought one of the baddest heavyweights in the world today, and you cannot take credit from him.
But he knew he had to place their friendship aside and be a fighter. In the arena that night, all of Ali's fans who witnessed the fight showed their love for the fighter, and many burst out in tears for what they had just witnessed. After this tragic fight, 14-year-old Mike Tyson, who at the time was still in training under Cus D'Amato, made a vow to restore Ali's honor. Cus D'Amato had had a very close relationship with Ali, and that fondness extended to Tyson. In fact, it is safe to say that Muhammad Ali meant the world to the young fighter. Tyson may have admired other fighters like Jack Dempsey and Roberto Duran, but on the flip side, he completely idolized Ali. Of the many things there was to love about Muhammad Ali, one thing stood out completely, and that was Ali's courage. And that was the same kind of courage that brewed in Tyson's heart. So, ever since that night, even with the many fights Mike Tyson fought, he never forgot the promise he made to Ali. He anticipated getting into the ring and beating Larry Holmes to a pulp. As the years passed, Tyson continued to perfect his skill while facing renowned boxers and creating a fantastic record. Under the supervision and training of Cus D'Amato, Tyson finally perfected the peekaboo, a style that was perfectly designed for Tyson about 30 years before he was ever born. This style focused on precise head movement and pressure-based counterpunching. It was the perfect style to help a much shorter man get close enough and completely take out his much bigger opponent. Considering that this was a period when the heavyweight division mostly had tall jabbers, this style was the perfect to counter every jab. With this in his arsenal, Tyson didn't necessarily need to land many punches to end a fight. All he needed was the peekaboo and his natural ferocity, and that was enough to make him a recipe for destruction. However, on the other hand was the legendary fighter Larry Holmes, who at the time was considered a long-reigning king. Holmes was capable of snuffing the life out of his opponent if they let him. The champion had a jab that could take anyone out cold. But regardless of all these victories in his name, the world never forgave Holmes for what happened against Ali. Following years of the media propagating him as the villain, Holmes decided to wear the badge with pride. Holmes went into every fight determined to defeat whoever was placed in front of him. Not a single stone was left unturned. So much so that in 1985, Holmes had built a record of 48-0, with his first defeat being against Michael Spinks. With so much anger from ruining his perfect record as a fighter, Holmes chose to retire later in 1986. And so, at the time, it seemed like all Tyson had worked and trained for was not going to happen. and he was going to lose his chance at fulfilling his vow to his idol. But all that changed after Don King waved a whopping sum of $3 million and a title shot at Tyson in Holmes' face. Now this was an offer he just couldn't shake off. So at age 38, with 2 years in retirement, everyone advising otherwise chose to take on the challenge against Tyson. It was like history was replaying itself on January 2nd, 1988. But this time around, Larry Holmes was challenging Mike Tyson for the undisputed heavyweight championship. But for Tyson, this fight was to get his revenge and restore the honor of his idol. As anyone would expect, Ali took that flight and came down to watch the fight and gave a grand introduction before the fighter. And on stepping out of the ring, he went over to Tyson and reminded him of the promise he had made to him. Holmes may have boasted about Tyson having to face the beast in the ring and get knocked out, but Tyson had just one job in that ring. In the words of Ali, go get him. Once the match had begun, Tyson didn't give any room for Holmes to make a move. That entire round, which seemed like a wrecking ball, kept swinging in Holmes' direction, and he was doing everything to make sure he didn't get hit. But that wasn't a very successful move, as Tyson had no mercy in his eyes and went straight from Holmes' ribcage while he tried circling off the ropes. The start of the second round welcomed Holmes with a powerful left fist to his face, and several unsuccessful hits later, Holmes got another left hook to his left shin. The look on Larry's face was like that of someone who was questioning why he agreed to this fight in the first place. The only thing that gave Holmes a chance in this fight was grappling pedigree, but even that wasn't able to keep Tyson away from him. Even with his legendary jabs that had made many squirm in fear, Tyson made it seem like none of that mattered at all as he kept up with his pace and made the bold move to beat Larry Holmes at his own game with mighty jabs. By the fourth round, Tyson knew it was time to bring his long fight to an end. At that moment, he landed a right hand, completely taking Holmes off his feet. Holmes did the only thing he could do once he was back on his feet to avoid Tyson's hit by all means. But that was not enough to stop him still, because just then came another solid right hand taking him back to the canvas. It was actually insane that Holmes still somehow found his back to his feet. For every time he stood up, Holmes' balance kept getting even worse than the last, and Tyson didn't hesitate to take the chance as he swarmed Holmes with punches that quickly finished off the old man, giving him a taste of his medicine.
I dedicated this fight to him. I was going to rip his heart out. I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lynx is a conqueror. No, I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. I'm the best ever.
This quickly topped the table as the only knockout in Larry Holmes' career and was the most important fight of Mike Tyson's career in his career. Even more, this fight was one of the most significant fights in heavyweight history as he finally got revenge for his idol. After this fight, the relationship between Ali and Tyson grew even stronger, and they met every year to catch up on life right until Ali's passing in 2016. In Tyson's words, Ali was the kind of man who was ready to give it all up to show the world just how great he was. But as much as that was not a life Tyson was willing to live, he admired the fact that Ali was never willing to give up. Interestingly, in one of their interviews, Muhammad had admitted that he would lose to Mike Tyson if they had gotten into a fight in his prime, and that meant so much from a man with a great ego. That, in and of itself, was greatness, and that was Muhammad Ali.